Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're talking about Suzuki. Just like the title of this video implies, we're going to be looking at the rise, the fall, and revival of a motorcycle giant. Before we get started, I normally do motorcycle reviews on this channel. You can check out a playlist for that right over here in this top corner. I'm also an affiliate for brands like Revzilla, eBay, Amazon, and Rurock helmets. If you want to support my channel, using those links in the description below is the best way to support me because I get a piece of the pie for the profit that they turn. Now, let's talk about Suzuki. Suzuki is a household name amongst the world of two wheels, synonymous just like other brands out of Japan are with words like innovation, speed, resilience, reliability, durability, dependability. But who is Suzuki? Well, their humble beginnings began in 1909. They were founded by a man named, and I hope I'm saying this right, Michio Suzuki, in Hamamatsu, Japan. And Suzuki didn't start with motorcycles. Their main output was making looms for the Japanese booming silk industry. But eventually the demand for textiles and fabrics slowed down, and Suzuki decided they needed to pivot. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that happened in between, but I didn't do enough research to get this video out with all that information, and it would be way too long to cover the entire history. So let's fast forward to the 1950s. Suzuki was one of the big four Japanese motorcycle manufacturers, alongside the likes of Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki. And while Honda, Yamaha may hold larger sales numbers, Suzuki has always been known for pushing the boundaries of performance, innovating, and very oftentimes being an underdog with a cult following. Here in America, we don't see a ton of Suzuki vehicles, but they do make cars, just like BMW and just like Honda. BMW builds a killer bike. There's no denying that. And they're more known for their premium vehicles, but their motorcycle division holds about 4 to 5% of the global market share, where Suzuki, they were at one point a dominant force, but they've kind of just lost their luster and petered off. Though they are making strides to make a good comeback, and we'll touch more on that in just a bit. We should start a little bit further back though. Suzuki didn't just compete in motorcycle racing, they helped define what a modern supersport motorcycle would become in 1985. Technically 1984 whenever the GSX-R 750 made its debut, but 1985 was whenever it went on sale on the market. This bike completely reshaped and revamped the landscape of supersport racing. The innovations in aerodynamics, lightweight frame construction, aggressive ergonomics, aggressive design, and high-revving, race-designed engines. So if you're riding an R6, CBR 600, ZX6R, you can probably thank Suzuki that those bikes even exist because they built the mold for what a supersport would become. It's all rooted deeply in Suzuki's racing heritage. So from 1985 to probably 1998 is where Suzuki really became this powerhouse of just pure motorcycle joy. But then we get into what I'm going to refer to as the stale era. The stale era doesn't have one moment that defines it. We can look at a time period between the late 90s and the early 2000s where Suzuki saw some stagnation, and this is where the whole bold new graphics joking kind of got its start. Bottom line, Suzuki hit a slump. Some of their models went nearly unchanged for decades. Let's take a look at some of these machines that were stuck in time. The first bike we're going to hit on is arguably one of the most significant motorcycles to ever graze the Earth's soil with its presence. It's the Hayabusa. It was first released in 1999. It received 3 major updates. One in 2008 whenever we got the second generation Hayabusa. The next update came in 2013 when the second generation got Brembo monoblocks in the front, and the most recent update was in 2021. Over 22 years, the Hayabusa received 3 updates. Up next, the DRZ 400. This motorcycle made its first debut in 2000. And in 2005, it received the SM, which wasn't really an update to the bike, but more so just a road bias model with street tires on it instead of dual sport tires. That bike, since the year 2000, has been updated once. And it just happened. 2024 with the DRZ 4S. We'll talk more about that later. Next up, the SV650 debuted in 1999 with a carburetor. It was a good bike, but it could have been better with some fuel injection and better styling, and that's what they did in 2003. The bike remained mostly unchanged and had some weird, like, teenage years where we got the SV650X, we got this weird thing called the Gladius that was almost an SV650, but not really. And then in 2016, I think the next update that we saw was just kind of modernizing things, bringing back a legend and making people happy. We really can't talk about Suzuki without talking about the most iconic dual sport ever made, the DR650. This motorcycle made a debut in 1990, receiving one update in 1996, giving it 2mm larger forks up in the front from 41mm to 43mm. And since then, it has remained unchanged. You can buy the same bike that was being made in 1996 today in 2025, and it's the same. No updates. But truth be told, the DR650 is a pretty stinking good bike and has a very large following. Another bike that I thought was worth mentioning was the Suzuki Boulevard M109R. This is their performance hog, okay? This thing is a power cruiser. It's got a big honking V-twin, it's got liquid cooling. It's pretty fun to ride, but it hasn't been updated since its first debut in 2006. It's still the same, nearly 20 years later. And there's nothing inherently wrong with the way that Suzuki builds their bikes. They're all good, and I think the fact that they can produce one model for so long talks leaps and bounds about their commitment to building bikes that are not just for the time being, but the market moving forward and how motorcycling will change. So the fact that a bike like the DR650 that was last updated in 1996 is still being bought and sold today is just kind of mind-boggling. So for over 20 years, Suzuki barely evolved, just kind of coasting and relying on legendary names while competitors pushed the envelope and updated their products more frequently. But then something happened at Suzuki. I don't know what happened, but 2017 happened. This is where the renaissance begins. Suzuki finally breaks the cycle of just giving us the same old stuff with some new paint and bold new graphics and living by the mantra, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We got an all-new GSX-R 1000. This was a step in the right direction. The previous generation GSX-R 1000 didn't have anything wrong with it, but this new GSX-R 1000 kind of sent us into the future and gave us some updated tech, featuring a new variable valve timing system, an inertial measuring unit, a quick shifter, ride-by-wire throttle. It puts Suzuki back in the conversation with Yamaha, Kawasaki, and Honda. Boom, fast forward to 2018, nothing happened. Boom, fast forward to 2019, the Katana returns. People said they wanted it, no one bought it. Next, bam, 2021, we got the updated GSX-S 1000 naked motorcycle. It came with ride modes, traction control, and an assistant slipper clutch, and used the very reliable, very legendary K5 platform with some slight updating and retuning and tweak. And yes, it came with all of those electronic goodies like the traction control, the ride modes, and the assistant slipper clutch, and a ride-by-wire throttle system. But this is a great motorcycle, and it was a good step in the right direction. They always have good color schemes. It looks pretty good. And I've ridden one and sat on one, and it's a pretty nice riding bike, okay? And it's priced right too. $11,909 for the 2025 model year. Looking at the industry leader for this class, the MT10, it's like $3,000 less than an MT10. But would I almost pay a little bit of a premium for the MT10, a little bit extra horsepower and cruise control? Probably. But this bike would be on my radar. Moving on. Bam! 2023. It was another year they brought us something new. They finally updated the GSX-R 750 Super Sport. And wait a minute. No, they didn't. Those have been the same since 2011, completely untouched. They haven't done anything to them. Nothing. I mean, they're decent. They come with Brembos, they have selectable ride modes, and they have a steering stabilizer, but that's it. That's it. Suzuki. They were updated in 2011, and they still hold up pretty well by today's standards. I guess it's not all bad. How did that even make it into the video? I should talk with my writer. Oh wait, I am the writer. Anyway, what really happened in 2023 was Suzuki made a shift on focusing and replacing their aging SV650 and V-Strom 650 bikes. We get the introduction of the GSX-8S and the V-Strom 800DE. These bikes brought more modern creature comforts like ride modes, traction control levels, standard ABS, and quick shifters, which is pretty baller. They followed the same formula that Yamaha had already perfected. They took a parallel twin motor, built a frame around it, and then used different components, forks, wheels, tire combinations to make bikes that were tiered for different markets. So the 776 82 horsepower parallel twin was now in a naked bike, it was now in a middleweight adventure bike, and eventually, 2024, we saw it go into a street-oriented sport bike, the GSX-8R, which actually got Bike of the Year in 2024 by the cats overseas at Motorcycle News magazine. And Europe rides more motorcycles than anybody. So for those guys to give it the nod, that's saying something. Suzuki had finally nearly caught up. And then at the end of 2024, they dropped a bomb and they were like, hey, we updated the DRZ400. We're gonna call it the DRZ4S, actually, and the DRZ4SM. It's gonna be basically the same thing. It's gonna be pretty good, and it's gonna have fuel injection now. Praise be. Oh, what's that? You wanna know if it's more lightweight? No, actually, it's heavier. Oh, what's that? It should make more power if it's heavier? No, it's actually less power too. What's that? Oh, we should make it cheap? Well, with the outgoing model DRZ 400 SM being priced at $7,899, we were thinking maybe we should price this bike around $8,000. And therein lies the issue of Suzuki updating their models. As we make things nicer, price goes up too. So they had to be making hand over foot whenever they were producing these old models like the DR650 the same way since 1996. All the research and development and engineering was done years ago. And now they've just basically had the cost of parts and labor to assemble and ship them out to dealerships where they were then being bought. Their job was already done. Whenever the dealer bought it from Suzuki, they had made their money. The DR650 continued to sell, the M109R continued to sell, the 2011 model GSX-R 600 and 750s continued to sell, the DRZ 400 continued to sell, and up until recently, whenever Suzuki has started to update their models and whatnot, I had never even considered putting one in my garage because bold new graphics, baby. What good is it to the consumer if it's the same bike every year? It doesn't benefit anybody, except for Suzuki. But I digress. Suzuki is rebuilding its reputation, finally making motorcycles that stand out again. Being a salesperson in a dealership, I see this shift happening in the store. Motorcyclists are starting to take Suzuki seriously again. I'm just worried on whether Suzuki is going to keep this momentum or if they're going to slip back into the bold new graphics territory. I don't know what's going to happen with Suzuki, what new models to expect moving forward. But I hope that they continue to push the envelope and go back to their roots that made them a motorcycle powerhouse, and they're going to start really giving Kawasaki, Honda, and Yamaha some serious competition. And competition is good for the industry. And the only thing that drives industry is innovation. So as long as Suzuki continues to innovate and forces the other brands to have this competition, the consumer will benefit. So motorcyclists everywhere should be excited that Suzuki has rekindled their flame and is starting to turn it into a big roaring blaze. And that's all I wanted to talk about. What's your favorite Suzuki motorcycle? What's your opinion on the company? Please write it down in the comments below. Have they re-solidified their spot in the world of motorcycling, or do they still have some work to do? Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below if you want to see more content like this in the future. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like on it. It's very beneficial to the algorithm. It helps people find my videos who have similar interests to you whenever you leave a like on it. If you want to support this work that I do, please use those links below in the description for Revzilla, Amazon, eBay, and Rock helmets if you want to get one for yourself. If you want to learn more about Rock helmets, you can check out this video right up here where I did a complete review on the Atlas 4.0 and EOS models. And if you want me to take this helmet off, just hit that subscribe button and tell your buddy to hit that subscribe button. And tell your nana to hit that subscribe button. At 20,000 subs, I will take it off. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a wonderful week. Ride safe.